Dr. Nicole Lipkin, and this is the Hey Kiddo podcast, where we talk about all things parenting. Today, I'm talking with Erika Malm about emotion coaching skills for kids and loved ones who are between the ages of 4 to 40. Erika has spent over 15 years treating trauma and eating disorders, and she's passionate about supporting individuals, couples, and families with effective care that's informed by recent developments in neuroscience. And she is also the founder and director of the Erika Malm Collective. Erika, it's so wonderful to have you on the show today. Thank you for joining us.
Nicole, thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
So, Erika, I actually had never heard of emotion coaching before for children. I knew about like developing the skills, social emotional skills, but download for us. What is emotion coaching for kiddos and parents?
Sure. Well, first of all, Nicole, I hadn't either. So I'll join you in that. It's actually quite new to me. I've only been doing emotion coaching for the past year. But coaching is basically coaching skills for parents to help kids and loved ones to emotionally regulate in the simplest terms.
Okay. So take us through like what's a day in the life of emotion coaching? Like what would it look like in practice?
Well, in practice, what it looks like is that the way that we do it is like parents of kids will come to us and say, like, my kid's really struggling, my kid needs therapy, my kid has an eating disorder, is anxious, whatever it is. And oftentimes parents come wanting their kid to get treatment. And so emotion coaching from the beginning is us looking to the parents and saying, hey, could we help you instead? And maybe the kid needs therapy too, but we want to give you the skills and resource you in order to support your child. And so emotion coaching is, the biggest piece of it is working with parents, either individually within a parent or with co-parents, in order to help them with very basic skills to help their child to go from an elevated, heightened state to begin to regulate. And so using the primary, like the superpower in here is validation skills, validating emotions, and then bringing in, the core things that we tend to do as parents, which is, support and problem solving.
Okay, so give me an example. So my kiddo Charlie, let's say, which definitely happens all the time, 5 years old, doesn't get something he wants, starts freaking out and yelling. What would that look like from me?
Yeah. So the first thing it looks like is that you getting, you matching Charlie on his level with the feelings that he has. So if he's really upset, so he didn't get something that he wanted, right? So let's say he wants a toy and he's not getting it right now because it's bath time or something, or it's dinner time. So the first step is validating Charlie's experience, right? So the first step is, oh, Charlie, yeah, it's so hard. I can understand why you would really want this toy right now because it's your favorite toy and you're having so much fun playing with it and you don't want to stop. And because I can imagine that right now, all you want to do is sit on the floor and you get to roll around and it's so cozy and you're having so much fun. And because this toy is something that you haven't been able to be with all day because you've been at school all day. And so I totally get why you want to do that. So let's do this, Charlie. we're going to go to the bath right now. I can tell you that you'll get 5 minutes more with your toy before bedtime. But right now we're going to go to the bath, and then we're going to, and then you go on with the normal things that you do. The biggest piece is the validation piece, and it's doing it 3 times. So it's 3 because statements. So you're I get it. Basically, you're jumping into their experience and really validating before you move on to what we're going to do, or before you even move on to comforting him that he's so upset.
Okay. So the trick is 3 validations.
The trick is, and it's 3 times and different. This is the way that we're working right now, which is based in Adele LaFrance's emotion-focused family therapy. And the magic number there, it seems to be from the studies they've done, is 3 times. for me, as a parent, like as a therapist, I know to validate all, like I'm validating all the time, right? As a parent, actually, it sounds silly, but the reason I came to do this was because I was having a kid who was really, really struggling, having big feelings and stuff. And I would go right to the soothing and like reassuring and cheerleading and then
Yeah.
problem solving. And I didn't even realize it. Like I didn't ever validate.
Right. 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 Right.
And so that's the piece that we tend to miss. And in our culture, we tend to miss. We tend to go right towards like, you got it, you can do it,
Right.
and
Right to
go
the
down.
problem solving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So validating, stepping back, addressing, oh, this is what you look like, you feel, and it's understandable that you would feel that way.
Yes. And you're really like and you're really trying to match, it's sort of like the Harvey Karp, like the happiest toddler. I don't know if that's still in vogue anymore, but
I
when
don't
my
know.
toddler on the block, I have no idea.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I like, it's like you really meet the emotion with the emotion. So like, I don't know,
Mhm.
but there's nothing worse to me than I'm really upset and someone's like, oh, I can really see how you'd feel that way. I'm
Yeah.
like,
It's like,
we were trained as therapists early on to be like a blank slate and neutral, right?
right,
And you feel
right,
so
right,
alone and you feel so terrible, right? So
right.
the first piece is the matching of the emotionality, right? And then the second piece is the validating, and you're giving statements. You're saying, I can imagine, or I can understand, or so you're using those statements, and then you're trying things out. And the person can say, the kid can try and be like, I don't feel that way at all, and then you try it again. Oh, and now it's so frustrating because you don't feel that way. I can understand, so you keep on doing it with
Right.
you.
So what happens when it doesn't work? What happens if your kid is like freaking out and it's really, and I'm not I don't want to say irrational freaking out, but I think we can all sit
I
here and
feel so
admit
bad.
that sometimes it's like over the top for no apparent
Yeah,
reason because
yeah,
they're tired or whatever it might be.
yeah.
What do you do in those situations?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you that not anyone who would tell you that there's something that could work every single time for those situations is a snake oil salesman, because
Yes.
it doesn't exist, right? It doesn't exist. That said, like what we're looking for here, and it's like you're looking for a 1-degree shift, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it may be that there may need to be a pause. You may need to go back to it. You can validate, you do the validation, and then you do the validation for what's pissing them off so much,
Yep.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, and so you stay with it, but you may have to take a break. You may have to come back to it, but you're planting seeds. Basically, what you're saying is that, first of all, you're undoing aloneness. First of all, you're not alone in this.
Yep.
I'm doing it. I get it.
Yep.
Trying to get it, and I really want to get it right. And when you tell me like that's not it, it's this, and then you're validating that. So you're really, really actively joining. So it's not going to work every time, but then you take pause, and then as a parent, then I'm going to work on self-regulate. The first thing I'm going to do is try to get like slightly regulated within myself so that
Yeah.
I actually deliver this with authenticity, because my kids and Charlie is going to know, like, the second you are bullshitting him. I don't know if I'm allowed to say
Yep.
that.
No, that's fine.
Bullshitting him, he's on to you. He knows it.
Yeah.
So it's really authentic, and you don't have to agree with it to authentically imagine or understand how hard it is for him, because this kid, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so it's not going to, look, it's not going to work every time, but you stay with it, you keep at it, and then you can give it some space and go back again and you try it again.
All right. So let's back up again. Let's do another example now that I kind of understand the concept. So let's say we are at Target
Mhm.
and
A favorite.
we gotta get, like, again, you accidentally pass that Lego aisle. Didn't mean to, but there it is right in front of you. And the toy is wanted,
Mhm.
but it's not going to happen.
Okay. Yeah. So Charlie, yeah. Oh gosh, it's so hard. It's so hard to be in the Lego aisle and to really want this toy because you've wanted, because you wanted this for so long or because it looks so good. And I can really understand why you want that right now. Charlie, I can like this toy is it's got your favorite colors. I can really understand that. You really want this at this moment. And because you haven't gotten a toy in a while. So you want one today. You really want it right now. And because you don't want to have to go to the other aisles and do the shopping with me because you'd much rather stay here and be in this toy aisle right now. I really, really think I get that.
Okay.
And then you're validating that. You're so mad. Yeah, Charlie, I
Okay.
can you're so mad right now because you want this so badly, because you feel it in your heart, because you feel it in your body how much you want that. I really, really think I understand that. I can imagine how hard that is for you. You're validating, and then he may still be dysregulated. You do it 3 times, and then you can validate the scream, even when you're in Target, even when you're in Target and people are
Yeah.
around. Just try to stay with him. Try to stay out of your shame. Like my kid's screaming in Target, right? Yourself. And then you can, even if he's still dysregulated and you've got to move on in that moment, then you can say, we're going to switch to the other aisle now. We're moving on now. I get that I really understand that it's so hard for you. We're going to go do this. We're going to do that. And when we get home tonight, there is that other toy that you really love playing with. And and you'll have a chance to be with that. And he's going to say, nah, whatever. He might.
Right.
However, to me, the impact has been, and for parents, I mean, it doesn't work every time and nothing will. And yet that experience of feeling really, really known, authentically known in their
Yeah.
desire or in their feeling.
There's something to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something powerful to it. There's 2 things that are coming up. I want to actually 3 things that I want to come back to that you said. Actually, one of my very close friends who's an incredible social worker, she always and does this kind of stuff. Also talks about like those moments where you're in Target and there's that freak out about and I love this, taking pictures of all the things that you're excited by.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and we have a little folder on the phone with all the pictures that you're excited by, because as birthdays come up or different things come up, that can be the folder we go to.
Yes. And that is a great one in the problem solving bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get to that part, right? It's like, that's such a great piece of it. Let's make sure we capture it for later so that you have it for your birthday.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So with that, there's 2 things you said. You're saying because.
Yes. You're saying because, and this is the magic word. Because is the magic word. So what is the word we normally use as parents? When your kid is saying that, even if we're validating, what's the word?
But.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we always say but.
And what does it say when we say but, or when someone says but to you? What does that mean?
Negates the beginning,
right.
The first part that you just said.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's the word we all use. That's the word that makes all of us feel completely unheard. The because is like, I'm going with instead of against you. Right?
I like that.
That's the magic word.
I like that, because I feel like I'm living in a state of improv class because I'm always forcing myself to say and. So I like having more vocabulary. Okay.
And it's like the both and yet the because I like, because, well, first of all, because it seems to work. It seems to be more effective. And the and is it's more, but the because is like it's more connected to the validation. And it's all what we're doing is that with the because statements, because you know your kid and because you really understand how your kid functions and why they want these things and why they're so disappointed. And as a parent, what you're doing is you're building up your because bank. So you're you can write things down like you're doing with with that idea, like of putting things in taking photos and stuff in the problem solving bank. So in the because bank, you have these statements that you can use, that you can pull from, is because you know Charlie and you have a sense of why he's so upset. And in you giving him the reasons. The other thing we tend to do is we ask why. What's making you so upset? What's making you so angry right now? I mean, in the toy aisle, we get it, but there are other times when we don't know.
Yep.
As a parent, what we're doing is by giving options, we're helping them to settle, because first of all, when you're asked why, when you're in a state of hyperarousal, it's very hard to answer questions.
Very hard.
So by giving them, it's almost like a multiple choice, but knowing our kid, we have a pretty good sense of that. So we're giving them some options, is this is why. And then
I
that's
see.
their brain to develop. So it's
I
helping,
see.
we're trying to develop, can help build the pathway between the prefrontal cortex, the thinking, reasoning part of the brain, with that primitive, part of the brain that's really in like, I need this.
Right. Unregulated, like, right. On fire.
Yeah.
All right. So I love that. And what I'm hearing you say is the because is helping when you're so upset. It is hard to apply logic and thought and organization. So you're helping your child actually, helping them identify what might be going on. Because when you identify what's going on, you can groove better.
You can, exactly. And so it's like that heightened state in the amygdala, like in that, that caveman brain, right? It's like that, it's hot. And so when we start to do the because statements, and when we give options for that, it's like water on a fire. It starts to calm down the nervous system.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean you still aren't going to need breaks or taking pause or things like that. And yet with that, like, because the because is first. And so it's saying, I've got you, I'm with you. And maybe it's because this, or maybe it's because that. And the inflection is so that we're generous with it, and we're really with them in that validating place. They have the option to say, yes, yes, mom, that makes me so mad. Yes, you're right. Or no, that's not it. And then you're saying, oh, I can imagine maybe it's because of this. Right. And so then they're them to build that pathway, and so they're not going to have to rely, and this is building it towards their adulthood and towards their adolescence. So they're not going to have to rely so much on symptoms or on other people in order to tell them what's right or wrong. And they're going to have greater internal compass.
I love that. There's another word I want to bring up that you mentioned, and that's shame. The toy aisle shame, the Target shame, all of the shame that we feel as parents. And I want to say something a little controversial. Because as an older parent, I am an older parent.
So,
and we are in this together. I struggle a little bit sometimes. Not gonna lie, I struggle, even though I'm a psychologist, even though like I know child development inside and out, and like all about building skill, all of that. I struggle sometimes with the amount of work around. It's hard to say this. It's hard to say it out loud. With sometimes not being like, hey, kid, stop it. And I know that doesn't work. But the shame that I sometimes feel is around really overdoing it on the over communication and negotiation with my 5-year-old.
And I can join you in that. And I actually think what I like about this, and what I actually think you're not negotiating, actually. Like, there's no part of this that's saying,
it's true,
I'm going to give you what you want because you're upset. True. And there's no part of this that's saying, I'm negotiating with you. It may be, and like with, I work a lot more with like adolescents and older kids and stuff. And it's really about towing the line. And sometimes it's life or death. Like sometimes it's an eating disorder, or it's like, like they're suicidal. And so it's like, sometimes it's like really holding a firm boundary. And so it's not soft, and it's not like, I'm going to, like, we're in dialogue. Like it's still, I'm the boss. It's actually very much that, like, there's someone else in charge who's got this. And in the path to get there, I'm fully with you. And I really, really am hearing how distressing that is. It's not saying like, you should feel that way. It's not saying, I think that makes a lot of sense, or I agree with that at all. And it may still be like, and we got to go. Like that, the next might be. You may not even do the picture bank. I don't know. It may be like, we got to go. But taking like a minute, taking 5 minutes to do that is going to help build that. And so that actually they're not like, I need this now. I mean, as they grow older and so I can join you in that. And I think there is a lot of that. And I don't think this is that actually.
I think you're right. This isn't it. As I'm hearing you talk, this isn't negotiating. It's helping a child identify the because, like what might be going on. I love how you're connecting like the prefrontal cortex and like the big emotions and how we're literally helping them get the organization around it. So I do really hear that.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, right. Their brains aren't there yet.
Yeah.
With the ability to do this.
Yeah. And you can still feel that inside.
Right.
You're not getting that, mister, no matter what. Like, I don't care how much tantrum in here. I mean, you can do that.
Right.
So you can buy that. Like, do it.
Exactly. Do you use this with older kids? Do you use this with your teens?
Big time. So that's primarily, and also we work with parents of kids, but we don't work with little kids in our practice. But, from like 11 and up. But so we're doing a lot of the parenting coaching we're doing with little kids, but also we're doing this with adult parents who have 45-year-old children. We're doing this. And the most amazing thing about the coaching, about the whole model, it's beyond the emotion coaching, but it's what they call the redo. So you're going to get it wrong. Like, the thing is that it's so powerful as a parent if we get it even like a little bit right for our kids, right? So it's going to be perfect. It's going to be messy. It's going to be bad. But if a parent does those validation does the emotion coaching with a kid, versus if I, as a therapist, do those validation skills with a kid, because of the neurobiological connection, or in other, because of love, because the relationship is so much stronger, the power of a parent totally botching it and doing it just like a little bit better than they normally do it because they're with is going to be so much more impactful than if I'm doing it as a therapist.
Yeah, I love it.
So, but I didn't answer your question, and your question is absolutely. So yeah, older kids and a lot with adolescents, because that brain is like, you're back in the 5-year-old, you're back in like you're hyper aroused and there's so many feelings, that's how I came to this. It was because of my 10-year-old at the time. So
did you find that it worked with your 10-year-old when you were integrating it?
I'll tell you. So I reached out to a therapist. The way I got into this whole thing was I reached out to a therapist and I said, my kid was really struggling with anxiety. And I said, I need help for my kid. It was in the height of COVID and there were even as a therapist, I couldn't get a therapist.
No therapist.
No therapist available. I found this woman and she got on the phone with me for like 15 minutes. She's like, I'd like to treat you. And I was like, of course you would. So she had one meeting with my daughter for like a half an hour. And she was using space treatment, which is Eli. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's Eli Leibowitz. It's out of Yale Child Study Center. It's supporting parents of anxious childhood experiences, supporting parenting for anxious childhood experiences. And so this was the beginning of that for me. And so I started using that, and it's a model it's again, like peer reviewed, studied. It's a very impactful model. So that was very helpful for me. And then I ended up getting trained in emotion focused family therapy, which they're both wonderful interventions. That's the one that uses the 3 because statements. So emotion coaching.
Yep.
And so I'll tell you, in terms of my own kids, it was a complete game changer. That's why I got trained in space. I got trained in emotion focused family therapy, because I was like, oh my God, my relationship with my kids completely shifted. And
Wow. Oh, and wait, I think I have heard of space. Can you talk about what that is?
yeah, that's supportive parenting for anxious childhood experiences. And basically with space program is that you have, it's similar. You're using the emotion coaching and you're using a lot of scripts. There's like, I can't give you the exact protocol because it's not what I'm practicing so much anymore.
Yeah.
It's similarly, it's using validation skills and similar emotion coaching skills, and then you go into problem solving. But you're also doing things like it's a wonderful thing. Actually, you write your child a letter and you let them know, you validate their experience, you let them know. And this is for kids who are really often who have OCD, anxiety,
Yep.
who are in more extreme mental health struggles.
Yep.
And so then you're writing a letter to your child to let them know that you really understand how they're feeling. You're doing the validation, you're doing the cheerleading, and then you're doing the problem solving, and you're letting them know how you're going to go forward with this. And you enlist your child along the way also if they want to be a part of deciding what the formula is going to be sort of for how you move forward and how you work with anxiety. So if it's like an exposure, like if you have a fear of driving in the car, or if you have a fear of certain foods, or other, sleeping through the night in your bed or something. And so then you're using a letter that you actually deliver to the kid, which is extremely powerful.
I bet.
Reads the letter or it's read to them. And so you're like, this is serious business. You are, a letter has been addressed to you and they're receiving the letter. And then you're going over and you get the coaching. I mean, there's a book, and then you could also get coaching from a therapist who's trained in it to be able to support your kid through the changes as you're going through these bullet points that you've agreed to with your kid in terms of how we're going to work
Love
through
that.
a specific problem together. It's great.
Okay. But you took the emotion coaching piece of it and really have focused in on that because of its success.
Yeah, we'll use the scripts and we'll use that protocol for certain kids, but the emotion focused family therapy is really where I've landed because I think, just different. It's the thing that is really continued to work really well for me. It's what I can use in very day-to-day, just sort of day life with the kids. Yeah.
Have you ever found that there's certain kids or personalities that it just does not work with?
No. I think that, and I mean, I say that for therapy too. There's no one that this stuff doesn't work for. It's just that, either either the provider, like myself, doesn't have enough skills to help the family or help, or that we're not. So let me just say this differently. Yes, sometimes there are kids who may not be that reachable at the time, and yet you're still planting seeds and it's still having even a 1-degree effect. So you're letting them know that you're with them in it. And when it doesn't, there's also things that you can do a therapeutic apology. So you're going back for something that you did 10 years ago or 3 months ago that you're revisiting with them, and you're really honoring their experience and giving an apology if it hasn't, if you haven't been so effective. When I say that, is there anyone who doesn't work for? I think there really isn't, because it just means that like we haven't figured out how to reach them yet. So it's not that they're not workable. It's that we're not skilled enough yet. Like I, as a therapist, may not be skilled enough in terms of like really helping the parents to be more effective with it.
Got you. Are there parents who you find are more difficult to kind of work with on this? And because I think this is important to talk about, just as self-reflection, if we're going to be using this, if parents listening are going to be using it, like, what do you find parents to be resistant to with this?
I think that, first of all, I also want to go backtrack. It's like, of course, there are kids who need other care or who need like, their own treatment or need a higher level of care. So I don't want to say that this is like, again, there's no magic bullet here. It's just effective intervention, no matter what else may need to be involved. So, but in terms of parents, I have, as a therapist, I think that what I tended to do, especially because I was in inpatient eating disorder treatment, and which has actually been extremely cutting edge, that in my training, we've always involved family members, and it's a good treatment to involve family members in eating disorder treatment. But we oftentimes, there was, sort of a position of blame sometimes, or like, oh, the parents are so difficult. The parents are a real pain in the ass. These parents are so resistant. They're so narcissistic. And there are parents who have greater limitations, certainly. And yet I think that pretty much, I mean, all parents, even if there's so many wounds from generations before that leave them in a position where it's hard to do this work, are coming from a place of love and care for their kids. And so I
Yeah.
think as much as we can as therapists is that to really see this as like, we're doing this for you. It will help your kid, but really we're doing this to you because you feel so helpless and so powerless right now. And if you have a kid, particularly a kid who's really struggling with something and who is really acting out, I mean, it's like, from the target lines, the target aisles, it is so hard as a parent.
So hard.
However, there are parents who are either too mentally ill or too physically ill to engage in the process. And with that, we have scripts that we work with kids and adult children to help them to communicate with their parents in the absence of the parent. And it's sort of like play, it's chair work, where to connect with the essence of their core essence of the parent and how the parent would be able to communicate with them if they were in their fullest self, if they had more access to themselves. So for parents who aren't able to do this work with their kids, we do have other ways of trying to have them have contact with their parents, even if we have to do sort of in absentia.
I love that. I love that. So this really is for any child, for any family.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And it just sounds like as I'm hearing it, even though I could imagine it being potentially annoying if you were mad at your co-parent or your spouse, I can see it happening between partners.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it comes from emotion-focused family therapy comes from emotion-focused therapy, which is Sue Johnson's, which was originally. So it was actually, it's a spin-off from that.
Got you.
Yeah, I use it all the time with couples. And so we're doing similar languaging, similar scripts, and similar support with couples. So
awesome. I love it. I love it. And I like how you're saying it's, it's just even like a teeny half a degree or 1 degree like that. It's like, it sounds like it's a buildup over time.
Yeah.
That the change happens over time. The relationship shifts over time.
Absolutely.
Anything else that listeners should know about it or think about when they're practicing it?
Another piece of it is that if there is a parent who is particularly blocked, we have exercise that we can do with the parent to get to know the block that's stopping them. So like what you're saying is that when you asked about the resistant parent, it's oftentimes because like what you're saying, I'm afraid I'm going to spoil my kid, or how can I validate my kid's anger? My kid's angry all the time,
Right.
Or and so so there are ways in which we can work with those blocks. And then there's also, as therapists who teach this to parents, we work on our own blocks. So when we're having trouble having compassion for the parent, we have a way of working with ourselves where we can work with our own block to get greater access to our compassion for the parents. And then we can help them have greater access to their compassion for their child. But yeah. So in terms of things to know, there are great resources where people can look at videos and look at ways of doing this that are completely free, and I can give that information to you. But so in terms of doing the emotion coaching, I don't know what else there is to say about it, but just I think the key word is just like the validation is
the validation is the key
that we tend to forget as individuals.
Okay. Yeah, and again, it resonates so much. It makes so much sense. So before I go into like the 5 takeaways that you have and you want people to leave with, is there a specific site that you refer people to for these free resources?
Yeah, it's mentalhealthfoundations.ca. It comes out of Canada originally. So it's mentalhealth.ca.
Mentalhealthfoundations.ca. Okay, that's great.
And that's where there are tons of videos for parents. It's all free resources. I have nothing to do with it. It's just a great resource that I send parents to.
Okay, that's wonderful. So with that, what are the top 5 takeaways that you want listeners to know about this?
The top 5 takeaways I want listeners to know is, first of all, validate, validate, validate. Remember to validate. It's the most important things for developing your kid's brain. When we validate, we're helping our kids to be able to learn how to self-regulate so that they don't have to turn to symptoms or substances or to other people for validation. They're able to be able to self-regulate. When you're having trouble validating, take pause, take a break. And validation is not the same thing as accommodating. I think that's an important one. I think that's maybe 4, but
yeah, I think that's good. Those are good 4. And I think the thing that I'm taking away with this is that it's not accommodation. It's not negotiation. It's actually helping your child's nervous system.
Exactly. Bingo.
And you're helping them organize in times of dysregulation.
Yes. And it's okay to do it imperfectly. It's okay to do it wrong. A little bit goes a long way, and we're looking for just a 1 degree shift.
Definitely going to be trying this. And definitely will do it wrong at first.
As I do too.
Yep. Absolutely. Erika, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for teaching us about this. This is like I'm super excited about this. And I am personally a fan of simple, basic, easy things that don't just apply to parenting, but apply to our lives as human beings, being human to one another. So I'm a huge fan of this.
Great.
Well, thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to Hey Kiddo. If you like what you hear, give us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Learn more about Hey Kiddo at our website, hey-kiddo.com. Have a question for our experts? Email us at hello@hey-kiddo.com.